Hello buddy, welcome. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the proposed preseason changes for Season 8. So a lot of these changes are very tentative, but there has been a lot of news that's come out over the last couple of weeks or so, and I get a ton of people asking me, what's my opinion on that? What do I think about these new preseason changes? What do I think about the new Rune System? And so I'm just going to go ahead and make a video here just so that I can get it all in one place, because I answer this question all the time on stream and in comments. So let's go ahead and get in here. So first we're going to talk about the out-of-game changes. So that's when you're not in an active game. So we're going to talk about removing purchasable runes. We're going to talk about the new leveling system. We're going to talk about IP conversion to blue essence. And then I'm going to talk about the new rune system itself. And I'm going to analyze some of the proposed runes right now. Now, keep in mind that a lot of the numbers are going to change on these. In some cases, I will predict how I think they're going to change, but I'll let you know where they stand right now in my analysis in terms of overall strength and what I think it means for the potential meta, as much as I can. Remember that a lot of this is very, very rough, but people are excited. People want to know. And so let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, if you're new to my videos, you can always find a link to this Google Doc I'm going to be going through in the description if you want to just skip around to different parts and not watch the whole thing if you don't have time to watch the whole thing. You can also find timestamps in the description where I will label the different parts where we get to the out-of-game changes, the runes, the analysis, all that kind of stuff. So I try to make it really easy to navigate. So it's thorough. There's a lot of analysis, but it's also really easy to navigate if you don't have time to watch the whole thing. Okay, so you can find a link to the changes right here that were just released today. They describe sort of what's going on there with upcoming changes. I've got it right here for you. I'm just going to go over the highlights of it. I'm not going to read it to you. I assume a lot of people have probably read it by this point, but if you haven't, then I've got the link there for you. So what's going on with this? So they are removing purchasable runes. So that means there are no more, from what I understand, there are no more rune pages and there are no more runes. I'm not 100% on the rune pages. I haven't seen word of that, but I imagine there won't be rune pages if there aren't purchasable runes. I think you'll just be able to do it kind of like you do masteries right now. I'm not 100% about that though, but that seems like that would fit with the theme of what they're trying to do. So to understand this move, I think it's a very good move for players, and I think it's a very good move for Riot as a company. So why is that? Okay, so runes originally were necessary as an IP sync. Put a verb in there. There we go. Runes were originally necessary as an IP sync. And what I mean by that is Riot had to have a way to soak up the free currency in the game so that you just didn't get all of their content for free without paying anything, right? Or it was very hard to do that. You had to play a lot of games to do that. And a lot of that was because this was a brand new sort of financial model. I don't think they were the first to come up with free to play, but they were certainly pioneers in trying free to play for, you know, a massive game with competitive ambitions, right? So this was treading on new ground. You know, this was still in the age. I guess they started development on this game probably back in 2008 or 2009. I'm not sure exactly, but this was back when kind of the subscription model was king for, if you think of like World of Warcraft, like that was the main money-making engine for a lot of games, was the subscription model. And WoW was the primary person with that. And then you had your games where you bought stuff, and then you bought expansions, and then you bought DLC, and all this kind of stuff. So it was either add on a whole bunch of DLC, or you have a subscription model, and that's how you generate a lot of revenue for games, right? So just like single buy a game out of the box with no extra content, that was kind of becoming outdated by this point. But they wanted to try a new model, which was give it to people for free, and if they enjoy it, they can keep spending quite a bit of money. So there will be some free players, but you're banking on the fact that there will be enough paying customers to offset that so that you can grow as a company, okay? And so one of the very first systems that they had was this IP system that's been there since the very beginning. And so what that did was that forced you to choose between whether you wanted to buy runes with your free currency or whether you wanted to buy champions with your free currency. You could not buy runes with RP, which is the currency that you pay for, Riot points, of course. Now you could buy rune pages with RP, but not runes themselves. And so the likely outcome of this was most people were going to buy runes who wanted to be competitive, right? Because runes are extremely important. in terms of your success in the current paradigm of League of Legends. So what it did was it prodded a lot of people to spend their IP on runes, and then they had to spend RP if they wanted champions, unless they just wanted to play forever or to get a bunch of IP, or just use the free champion rotation. So what happened was a lot of people spent IP on champions. That's how Riot made their money. So there was a very limited selection of skins. There were some when it came out, of course, but there weren't as many champions and there weren't as many skins. So I would venture to guess that a lot of their revenue came from people spending RP on champions and like experience boosts, IP boosts, all that kind of stuff. That's how they made their money. All right. But the game has evolved dramatically since then. So now the main source of revenue, most likely, and once again, I don't have exact numbers from Riot. I'm just thinking logically through this, and this is most likely kind of what's spurring this change. The game has evolved. So now the main source of revenue is likely skins, not champion purchases, because there are so many skins out there right now that, you know, each champion typically has multiple skins. So there's far more skins than there are champions. And so the best way to sell people these skins, which are the most profitable products, are by getting people to play champions and have them enjoy those champions. If they enjoy the champion, they're going to buy the skins, right? So that's kind of, you know, the paradigm of today, right? So by offering more free champions, by getting rid of the paid runes, people can now spend their IP, which is going to be Blue Essence, which I'll talk about here in a second. They can now spend that on champions because they don't have to buy the rune pages and the runes, and that means they're going to have more money available to buy the skins. Okay, so people are much more likely to buy the skin. So if they like, you know, Katarina, for example, they might not only buy Katarina, but they might, you know, get Katarina with Blue Essence and then get 3 different skins for her. And now they've got chromas that you can get for those skins to modify the skins. So there are all kinds of extra things that people can do. And this is much more of a feels good, which I talk about here. People like to feel like they have agency, like they're getting something that's fun. Like, I choose this skin because it's cool. It reflects some aspect of myself, or I just like it aesthetically or something. It's a feel good, you're choosing it, right? Whereas runes aren't really a feels good. You just have to have them because, and a lot of people don't even really understand why they get runes. Like, they don't understand the power. It's invisible power, which is what you don't want in game design. You want people to feel powerful, and you want them to feel like they're making meaningful choices, and you want to create feels good moments that people understand. Anything that's invisible power is not good because people don't understand the decisions. They don't understand why things are important, and thus they're not really going to appreciate the game as much. They've gone away from invisible power over time quite a bit, and they've done this through their champion design, right? So they've tried to take away just the invisible like armor and magic resist that Sona used to give. They've taken away like Tarek's armor aura. They've taken away the global experience that Zillion used to give. They've taken away the global movement speed that Janna used to give. Like, they're taking away a lot of stuff that just looks invisible and yet is powerful. The original Locket, which was just changed this year to be an active instead of just a passive that gave out magic resist. So they're taking away invisible power and putting in really visible, flashy things that are obvious that represent skill in the game. And that's part of what they're doing here with the philosophy of these runes. They're taking away invisible power and they're adding in flashy things that people can invest in and feel good about it, right? You can see that cool Katarina skin and you're like, yes, this is awesome. I love this, or whatever, right? So it's just it just feels good for players. It's much better psychologically for the community to be able to spend money on skins rather than runes. And growth is really strong for Riot still. I think they're at 100 million users so far. But retention is the real return on investment. They want to keep people playing the game, right? That's the key. So they still have some new people coming in, but they need to hold on to the old people they have. They have such a huge base that eventually, as you keep growing, eventually retention becomes more important than growth, because you could have attrition, people who leave to go to other games or whatever, and eventually, you know, you don't want that to surpass your growth, obviously, but they're going to get closer and closer to an equilibrium as you grow. This happens with all companies, right? This is why companies like, you know, multi-zillion-dollar companies like Microsoft and Google and, you know, stuff like that don't grow as fast as like startup companies, because they have a much, much higher base. And a lot of companies like Microsoft kind of shift over to retention rather than growth. Okay, it's just a business. That's just what goes on in a lot of businesses. So More new players are likely to stay if there are lower barriers to entry, so none of these old runes. So that it not only attracts new players, but it'll also get new players to stay around, so they'll play it and they won't feel like they have to grind a million games to be able to be competitive and ranked, right? Like they can just come right out the gates if they want to as soon as they hit level 30 and start playing ranked. And that's really a great way to keep people around in the game. Well, if you don't think that ranked is too toxic, I don't. But anyways, that's a different discussion. But anyways, it's very good. It makes people feel good. Okay, so the new leveling system is very similar to this. I think that's another excellent move. So what they're doing with this is they are removing the level 30 cap, and apparently it's an unlimited cap, from what I understand. Okay, they're going to offer rewards for like up to level 100 and beyond or something like that, but there is no cap. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to go like exponential, so like it's more and more and more experience as you go up in levels, kind of like something in Pokemon or, you know, a lot of other games, Pokemon Go, which I played for like a month or something last summer before last at this point, I suppose, summer of 2016. Cool game, but I just can't keep up with it in the channel. So it's crucial to understand that Riot, like, it is crucial that Riot make the game fresh and fun for casual players without sacrificing competitiveness. This is a very, very difficult tightrope to walk, right? And many other games have failed in some respect, or at least they've struggled with it over time, right? And Riot probably studies these things and they understand. So World of Warcraft was one of the major ones, right? So, you know, the original couple of games were cool. You had Vanilla, you had Burning Crusade. There were, you know, lots of quests, like huge worlds, especially in Vanilla, tons and tons of stuff to do. And it was fun, but you have to keep trying to make it fresh and interesting. You can't just have the same mechanics. You can't just have the same game over and over again. People want new stuff. And so over time, they created something like the looking for raids so that more people could get into raids. They created Garrison so that people could, you know, craft their own items, what they thought to be in a more, I don't know, accessible or easy fashion to craft items, so you don't have to go around and just scour the world for all of these things and all that. And they thought this was cool. They thought that all these conveniences were good, but it backfired quite a bit. I mean, I have played for about 2/3 of one expansion, whatever the recent Orc one was. I can't remember what it was, but I went back and played that. And so, anyways, it's just a problem with a lot of people. And what happened was it just kind of cheapened the experience for a lot of people, and it cheapened the competitiveness because a lot of people had similar gear, and it also cheapened the experience in various ways. So Riot needs to avoid that pitfall. So the key is to make the game fresh and fun for casual people without sacrificing competitiveness. So they've already implemented some things that are very good at this. So think about the crafting system, chant mastery system, events, missions. All of these, they have had events in the past, but they're doing them with much more regularity now. And they theme the events around missions, and they theme them around a set of skins. So they get people hyped for the event, and then they have missions for it, and then they have skins. And you can also purchase this mission package where you get all this bonus stuff, skins, like a pass, more missions, all this stuff. So that's brilliant because that's a feels good. You can invest in that and you're like, that's really cool. I like this theme. I want to get this skin. I want to get this, you know, emote. I want to get this, you know, all of these things, right? All of this stuff you can get, but it's all decorative, right? So it's just aesthetics. It does not affect the competitiveness of the game. You don't have to spend money on these things. If you don't want to, you can choose to, but you don't have to. It's not pay to win. It's just pay to have fun, basically, with these things. And then the chant mastery system is excellent as well because, you know, a lot of people care about their chant mastery. And, you know, if you can't be a high rank, at least you can have a high champion mastery, right? And say, look, I played this champion a lot and all that. So that's really, you know, quite a lot. I see people using that as justification for why they're experts in a certain thing. And it's good to let people feel that way. You know, regardless of however you feel about it, that's a good thing. It's a very good thing for casual players to have this champion mastery thing around, right? It makes you feel good. It's not that difficult to implement. You get a nice little taunt whenever you level that up. And then, of course, the crafting system where you have these boxes that you can get, these keys. So you get these random little bursts of sort of excitement in there, and you get some free stuff, and it's just enough to kind of tempt you a little bit, right? Where you're just kind of tempted, where you're like, well, I've got some boxes, maybe I could just spend like a couple of bucks and get some keys or something, right? Or I've got some keys, maybe I can spend a couple of bucks for some boxes. So they just kind of give you a little bit, right? They give you just a little pinch of stuff. And then if you want a little bit more, then you can choose to get some more if you want. So they're making it a ton of different things, not just skins, but crafting, the events, the missions. They're giving you all kinds of ways that you can spend money on the game in ways that you want to spend money to create the kind of experience you want in the game. And so that's super cool. If you don't like an event, you don't like the theme of it or whatever, maybe it's steampunk, you don't like steampunk for some reason, you don't have to get it. They'll have another themed event, in a couple of months. So it's really cool. And it's at its competitive peak. The solo queue ladder is as tough as it's ever been. There have been lots of YouTubers that have talked about this. I've talked about this. It's really hard this season to climb. People are just getting better. They're reading guides. They're playing more games. They're just becoming smarter, better players. Now, I know occasionally we get, we all get those people in our game, right? You know what I'm talking about, that just don't seem to belong, right? Like, why are they in this division or whatever? But by and large, if you've played the game for a while and you really go back and think about sort of the level of play in seasons past, it is definitely better this season than in seasons past. I know that personally, I've been Plat 1. I was Plat 1 for like 3 or 4 seasons. I was Diamond 5 last season, and I'm up to Plat 1 this season, working my way back towards Diamond 5. And I can tell you, going through Plat 1, like, virtually every season for the past 3 or 4 seasons, it's a lot. People are a lot better now. They are a lot smarter, especially at macro, like dragons, rotations, champion compositions, all that stuff. They're way smarter. So it's very competitive. We have some of these people that do, like, Journey to Masters or Journey to Diamonds people. Nisi is one that I think of right now, or Nice. And he's one of my favorite YouTubers. Go check him out. He's great. He's got some good content. But he doesn't do the Journey to Diamond or Diamond in under 100 games or whatever anymore because he keeps getting stuck in Platinum. A master level player just cannot get through in 100 games as easily as he used to be able to do it. So it's definitely competitive. And then you think about, there's even college esports now. Certain colleges are giving out scholarships to play League of Legends specifically. You have fantasy sports. It's not just esports. There's fantasy sports where people are betting or, probably underground betting on League of Legends games. And there are sites where you can bet on it, not with real money, of course, but, with these other kind of made up currencies they create. But people are so into this game. Like, there's just so much in terms of spectatorship, analysis, at the collegiate, at the pro level, even people like me who run pretty big. Well, my YouTube channel is not that big yet, but there are just a ton of YouTube channels about League of Legends that have all kinds of different angles, and they can all fit into that ecosystem, right? Because there's just so much demand for League of Legends content and knowledge. It's amazing. And so they're doing a wonderful job of making it accessible for casual people while also keeping it very competitive and very serious for people who want to take it seriously. So I think they've done a wonderful balancing job. And I think this new leveling system is going to be another step in that direction, where it rewards players for participating even on a casual level. So it's very similar for me to the champion mastery. You just keep playing, and now you can say, I'm level 100 or whatever because I've played a zillion games at League of Legends, right? So it just makes people feel good. They get these mysteries. They get some kind of recognition for just playing a lot of games. But I don't think that it's so much that people who don't grind and, play for 5 hours a day, they're not going to be missing out on that much, right? So I think they're throwing people a bone, the people who play a lot. And it's not just that you get something at super high levels, like level 100 or whatever. You're getting things at every little level is what they say. So they always keep it fresh and interesting. They say every time you level up, you get all kinds of bonus gear and stuff. And then whenever you hit certain thresholds, like level 40, 50, 60, 100, whatever, I think they said that's still a work in process, what the rewards are and what the levels are. You can constantly feel like you're working towards something that's pretty close that you can earn. So I think that's cool. So I think, something like that obviously has the potential to feel like a grind for the top rewards. But like I said, I think they're innocuous enough. It's not going to feel like you're missing out on a ton if you haven't played it. And you're still going to be able to get some stuff by playing it. So I think overall that's good. That's just another thing that's going to help out casual players, make the game feel fresh and interesting for them. And then finally, the IP conversion to Blue Essence is good for new players. This is great for new players. The change clarifies in-game currencies so people understand, like, okay, if I disenchant this, I'm going to get Blue Essence, and I can use that to buy other champions. I can choose which champions I want. So maybe I got this Garen shard or whatever, and now I can disenchant it and go get Soraka or something like that. So I don't know if they're going to disenchant 1-to-1 like that, like a 450 IP right now that you disenchant like Garen, that you could just go straight up over to get Soraka. You might only get a percentage of that, Garen value. But nevertheless, I think that's good because now you have a little bit more say if you're a newer player in, figuring out which champions you want. Because you can disenchant champions you don't want right away, the champion shards, and then go get champions that you do want. So I think that's really cool. And they're giving away for veteran players who just have a ton of IP, like me. I have like 130,000 IP. I can never spend it because I own everything that you can buy with IP, basically. So they're giving you some ways you can spend that now, I think. It said you might be able to get some limited edition skins. Very briefly, you might be able to buy some chromas, and just some other little trinkets and doodads in the shop or whatever. So I think that's cool. I don't really care that much personally. I don't play the game for these rewards. I play the game because I love the game. I think it's interesting. And, I just play it because I enjoy the game. But for a lot of people, I'm going to like it, sure, of course. I mean, who wouldn't like free stuff? But, it's not going to be the decision maker between whether or not I continue to play League of Legends. But I think for a lot of people and veteran people particularly veteran people that aren't actively trying to climb higher in ranked, I think this is a pretty cool addition just to help them feel like they can do something with their currency. Okay, so overall, I think it's a win for everybody. Now they just need to do voice packs. I think that's the next evolution. They've never said they wanted to do that, but I really think that'd be awesome if they had like announcer packs where you had like, different themed people. You could have like an ASMR announcer. You could have like a Morgan Freeman announcer. You could have like a Little John announcer or something. I mean, you could get all kinds of fun announcers in there, right? I mean, you could do special voice packs for, you could get the voice actors who did the champions to give extra lines for the champions, kind of like a secret champion voice pack. Maybe they could theme that around some of these events that they have with the skins. They could have like special voice packs that are available like at an additional cost to the skin. So if you got Elementalist Lux or something, maybe she could have new voice lines, but you would have to pay an extra, $10 or $15 in Riot points to get the special voice packs. And maybe she would have an additional 30 lines or something that she might say. Like, I could see that going over very well, and I don't think it would cost that much more money to set that up, because you already have people voice acting for this stuff anyway. So just pay them a little bit more, get these extra lines, and then just gate them behind a little bit of RP and save them for themed events. I mean, I think that would be cool. So the announcers, I think, would be a grand slam. They could very easily just have people read the basic stuff, like, triple kill, quadra kill, an ally has been slain, just the generic stuff. They could very easily pay certain celebrities with unique or compelling voices to do that, and make a ton of money off of it. Like, a ton, hand over fist. So I think that should be something they should explore. But anyways, that's a different story. I think that's the next evolution. Okay, so let's talk about the new rune system overall. So one of the greatest aspects of League of Legends... How are we looking on time here? Okay, that's not bad. Not bad for one of my videos. I'd like to try to keep this to about an hour. Okay, so a new rune system. I think this is great. So one of the great aspects of League of Legends is the pre-game strategy. And from what I remember, I haven't played a lot of other MOBAs, but I think that League is not, if it's not the only, it's one of the only games that has sort of a pre-game strategy element to it, right? So from what I remember when I played Dota 2 just like a few games like a few years ago, they don't have runes or masteries or anything like that. You just show up with your champion and play. So your champion's the same thing every time you play it. There is no customization. You can get different items. I think there might be more items in that game. I'm not sure. And I'm not trying to just say that about Dota. I mean, from what I understand, there's no other game that does it like League in terms of the pre-game strategy, having runes and masteries, where you're like, okay, this is the composition. I need to prepare for that by thinking carefully about which masteries and which runes I want to run, right? Because that might impact the way that I'm able to play this game. So maybe I want to run Thunderlords on Lulu because I want to go really aggressive on a Draven, and I'm going to take... They don't even have summoner spells, I don't think. I don't think they have that in Dota 2. I don't remember. So that's another level of pre-game strategy. So League has 3 levels of pre-game strategy right now. You've got the runes, the masteries, and the summoner spells. So maybe you think, okay, I'm playing Lulu with Draven. A lot of times I like Lulu with wind speakers for scaling later in the game, and typically I'll take early game AP just for pushing. And you know, I'll take Exhaust for the late game assassins, but maybe I'm like, you know what, we've got a Draven on our team, we're against a brand, this actually happened tonight, we're against a brand, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to go super aggressive, I'm going to run Ignite, I'm going to run Thunderlords, and we're just going to beat this brand down. And we did. And so I was able to, this was the game. So you see, usually I almost always take Exhaust, but this game, because we had a Draven, and I really wanted to get ahead early, then I went ahead and took Thunderlord's Ignite. And so that's something very unique you can do in League of Legends. You can say, okay, I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to play this champion in a different way early on. I'm going to go super aggressive because they don't have sustain, they don't have an enchanter, and we have a hyper-aggressive AD carry in the game. So I'm going to go really hard this game. And you just can't do that in a lot of other MOBAs. You'd come in and you'd be the same Lulu every game. You might be able to buy some different items, but early in the game, it's going to play almost the same way. So what makes League great is you can change it. But the problem is with the current runes, as I said earlier, you know, they are hidden power. You know, it's nothing really seems that different in your gameplay that much. And I mean, when you get to higher level play, people do notice quite a lot of difference in runes, but for the vast majority of players, you're not going to really be like, oh wow, this 20 AP is completely changing the way that I play this lane now that I have 20 AP instead of you know, 7.5% CDR and 40 more health or something like that, right? People, you know, most people don't pay attention to those subtleties. They just might die to somebody who has like a really aggressive rune page, and they'll be like, oh crap, that champion's overpowered or something. They just won't understand that that person's going for a really heavy all-in early game, and they pick their runes and masteries accordingly. So it's hidden power. You know, only kind of the elite level of players, for the most part, notice that. Right, people that actually research it, people that actually try to understand and min-max their runes and masteries, those are the only people that's going to notice it. So all of you notice it because you're all really smart people because you're watching my channel. But the vast majority of people won't notice that kind of stuff. So they typically just do whatever experts tell them to do, right? So whatever, you know, YouTubers tell them to do, or whatever like MobaFire tells them to do, or op.gg or whatever, they just do it. But they don't understand critically why it's important, and it's not really visible in the game that much. Masteries have historically been similar, just kind of hidden power over time. You just get a bunch of stats, and that's it. Just choose which stats you want. However, the Keystones this season have changed a lot of that. These Keystones have been very meta-defining masteries, and I think that's been really cool. So if you think about Thunderlord's Decree, that's been super powerful. At different points, Courage of the Colossus defined an entire meta in early December, I think. That was when like Hecarim and Vi were very, very powerful, when that mastery was super strong. And then you think of Windspeakers still defines the meta. It's incredibly powerful on Enchanters. They've nerfed it a couple of times, but it's still really, really good. Fervor defined the meta for a while. Anything that could attack really fast or had extra triggers for the Fervor. Think about Lucian. Think about like Black Cleaver users, someone like Renekton top lane, right? That really defined it, because when you hit with a physical attack and then you got the trigger from Cleaver, I think that was how it worked. It may have just triggered, it either triggered extra armor shred or fervor stacks. I don't remember. It's late or / early or whatever. I haven't been to sleep, okay? Because I really wanted to get this out before I went to sleep before the stream tonight. But those are meta-defining things, and you have really cool interactions. Like you have now you have Stoneborn Pact plus Ardent Censer, which opens up a lot of really cool interactions. It allows people to build Ardent Censer that otherwise may not be able to build it efficiently, right? So someone like Thresh, for example, he doesn't have to build Ardent Censer, but he can with Stoneborn because it heals. So whenever you crowd control someone, if you don't know how this works with Stoneborn Pact, I still get asked this: why did you take, you know, LOL? Why did you take Stoneborn Pact or Ardent Censer on Nunu? LOL, why did you take it on why did you take it on Vel'Koz, right? Like why do you do these things? Vel'Koz support, that is. It's actually quite good on Vel'Koz support. I'm about to release a video on that, maybe later today. But yeah, okay, so this is kind of garbage. This is all right. But what the key part here is allied champions who attack branded enemies heal. This heal comes from you. So that means that it counts as a heal for Ardent Sensors. So that means that you give your ally that extra 25% move speed, 25 on hit and healing. So that's a really, really cool interaction. So that makes champions like Vel'Koz, it gives them completely new build paths. So I think this has been awesome, having these keystones. to have really meaningful choices. But the problem is that's just one thing, right? That's just one choice that you make. You have Keystone, everything else down the mastery trees, it's almost always standardized. Like there might be 1 or 2 times where you change something slightly, right? But for the most part, in most trees, your choices are very, very standardized. There might be 1, maybe 2 choices somewhere in the tree, but it's pretty standard for masteries. And runes are pretty standard for the most part too, with a few minor exceptions. So there is this pregame, but there's not a great diversity of choices. Okay, so unifying runes and masteries into a single system allows for more powerful effects. The reason for this is it's a lot easier to playtest and balance because there aren't as many variables, right? So one of the big problems that Riot ran into in patches 7.1 to 7.5 this season is all of the damage masteries were too high, but they didn't realize that for like 5 patches. You know, a lot of these champions just kept being overpowered, right? Like you've got Kha'Zix, Rengar, Jhin, Zyra. All of these champions were just tearing everybody up, and they were very oppressive in the meta at the time. And just games were ending so quickly. You know, they're ending in 20 to 25 minutes. Like, snowballs were out of control. It was a fun time. It was the wild, wild west of League back then. You know, we had a Ziggs ADC. It got so crazy. Like, that became a popular thing for a few weeks because AD carries were so bad because these, like, assassins, you know, Rengar, Kha'Zix, all this stuff were so strong, they would just completely delete standard ADCs. And the jungle was so strong. So, overall, that was pretty out of whack. And part of it was because the masteries gave too much damage. And that was because it was split over a whole bunch of different masteries. There were like 6 different masteries that a lot of these champions got, and they all gave extra damage. And so it was not any individual mastery, but it was all of them together with the lethality items, with the jungle changes, right? The experience in the jungle, the new blast plants, all of this. So many variables to try to balance around for Riot's team. It's just impossible to identify the core problem. And they tried to, you know, they would nerf Kha'Zix, they would nerf Rengar, then they would nerf lethality, and then they would nerf like jungle experience, and it was still out of whack. And then finally they nerfed the masteries, and it's like, okay, now we're getting back to normalcy somewhat. Okay, so they need to take away some of these choices in runes and masteries so that it's identifiable power. It's not hidden power. It's power that where you can make a deliberate choice, and also where Riot understands what that choice is. It's a lot easier for their balance team to keep track of these choices. Because there are so many variables, and there's millions and millions and millions of people that played this game, and there are only so many like things that Riot can playtest with. I know some people are like, oh, how'd that get past Riot's, you know, playtesting line? That's stupid. That's overpowered. Well, it's because there's so many variables, and they did not see it. And so they're not perfect. They can't emulate what happens when you release changes into 100 million people. Like, that 100 million people are going to find things, and they're going to exploit things that you didn't even think about. So, by lowering sort of the variance here, by lowering the variables, they're able to add in more powerful stuff that's more creative without throwing the game as far out of whack, because they're able to control the variables a little bit better. Now, some of this stuff's going to be out of whack, and some of it is out of whack right now in the preseason. I'll point that out. But I think this is very wise from a balancing perspective. It's going to give them a tighter control over the balance so that they can keep the game fresh and interesting by adding all these cool new abilities, but also keep it relatively balanced because there are less overall variables. There's less hidden stuff for both the players and for the developers. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's talk about some of these analysis earlier. So all of this is very good. It's more visible power for the players, and it's more visible power for the developers so that they can develop it and balance it more accurately to give you more fun stuff. Okay, so that's the thing. Good stuff. Excellent. I mean, Riot gets an A+ this year. I've been playing since Season 1. I'm a deeply analytical person. I think about all this stuff, balancing like systems within games, all of this stuff. And I think that this is the best season they've ever had. Even though, like I said, I haven't got back to the Diamond 5 yet. I do get frustrated sometimes on my climb, but that's good. That means the game's competitive. That means that people are taking it seriously. That means that people will eventually come and watch my YouTube channel because they take it seriously. And, you know, they want to become better at the game. So it's a good thing. Okay, so early analysis of runes. So Enchanters get the best toys, okay? Once again, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, dang it, Enchanters, they've been so strong for the past few patches. But you got to remember that AP supports were also the best from like 7.1 to 7.5. and then tank supports were pretty good in there too. It's just really been since like 7.6 on that enchanters have been good, and they've been good for a while. They've been good for, you know, going on 11 patches, but there are reasons for this. So the main reason is that it's structural. Why utility supports, what they call enchanters now, are powerful, and the reason is because they are designed to function on very low gold, and they don't need many items to be effective. Okay, this is how supports, like the OG supports, the old gangster supports of Janna and Sona back in the day, and then Lulu was added a little bit later. Lulu was played as a mid laner quite a lot, so she's not exactly the perfect example, but I threw her in there as like a very common enchanter these days. But Janna and Sona are the OG enchanters with Soraka, and they're designed to function on low gold, so they are designed to be able to buy, you know, 30 wards a game or something like that, and Aegis of the Legion, and that's it. Like, that's what happened in Season 1 and Season 2. You bought your Oracle's Elixir, which is basically you could put it on, it was 400 gold, and you walked around, and you always saw invisible things. You saw every ward, but if they killed you, you lost it. So it was kind of like a Magi's for supports. Like, if you kept it up, you got an astronomical advantage over the enemy. But if you died with it a couple of times, well, that's lights out, because every time they kill you, it's an extra 400 gold that your team lost. So it was super snowbally. But between buying, you know, Elixir, between buying Oracle's Elixir, between buying all these wards, you might get one item. You might get Aegis of the Legion. You bought a Philosopher's Stone, which gave you gold per 5, a really weak gold per 5 compared to now. And you bought Heart of Gold, which was another item that gave you gold per 5. And you might get Shirelia's Reverie from back then. You might get Aegis, but you're certainly not getting much. You're going to get 1 or 2 items, okay? So these champions were designed to function on very low items and very low gold. And the reason is they just have really powerful innate abilities. They're very safe. In the case of Janna, she has great displacements. Her shield's very powerful. They're just designed to be good on low gold. And, you know, it was a joke. If you wanted to say you wanted to play Zyra support or Brand support or something back in the day, that was a complete joke in Season 1 or 2. You always had to play an enchanter. But now, you know, you can play tanks, you can play enchanters, you can play mages. But the problem is utility supports are a very unique class because they were designed to be that way. And they want to promote that because it's good for the game to have a class that is distinct from other classes. Mages, in some ways, are very similar to mid laners or just like assassins sometimes. And then tanks are very similar to junglers or top laners and what they do. But enchanters are unique. There really aren't enchanters in other roles outside of Ivern. He's kind of a new age like paradigm. But there really aren't enchanters outside of the bot lane. And so they want enchanters to be there because they're healthy, because they're different. It's a completely different gameplay experience than any other role when you play an enchanter support. Okay, you get different kinds of items, you play in a different way. They want that. That's good for the game. Okay, like you don't want the AP champions to be so far out of whack that they push enchanters out of the meta, because that's just going to be like you're playing a mid laner in the bot lane, which is okay, but it just starves out one of the diverse aspects of the role, which a lot of people who play support enjoy. Also, it's very, very difficult to balance around mages, because if you make items that are too powerful on supports and for tanks, if you make items that are too powerful and they're too cost efficient, then they're going to get used by other lanes. So think of like Frost Queen's Claim. That was really strong for a long time, where you had mid laners buying that. You even had some junglers buying that. Like, it was so strong that everybody was buying that item when it was really powerful. And now you have things like Knight's Vow, where a lot of junglers are buying Knight's Vow. A lot of top laners are buying Knight's Vow because it's very strong. Even though it wasn't intended for them, it's intended for supports. People are still buying it. So, you know, you have these cases where other lanes are abusing support items because support items are so cheap. You know, you've got Knight's Vow, which I think is 2,200 gold now. It's either 22 or 2,300. That's so much cheaper than something like a Dead Man's Plate, right? And so that means that if a jungler gets Knight's Vow, they're going to hit their power spike much, much faster than other junglers. The same thing with top laners. And so that's the problem, is that it throws off timings and power spikes in other lanes and makes it a nightmare to try to balance for Riot. And so a lot of that is they can't do really cool. It's more difficult for them to design really cool AP support items and AP tank items without risking throwing off the balance of every other lane. Whereas Enchanters, there aren't going to be Enchanters other places except for Ivern. So they just directly nerfed Ivern in the dirt. That's how they fixed that problem. But there really aren't Enchanters in other lanes that are going to be using these Enchanter items. I proposed in my last patch notes video they should just make a stat called Support Power, and that unlocks the true value of an item. So that unlocks the plus healing and shielding. That unlocks the partnership thing for Knight's Vow. That unlocks all of these cool abilities and triggers, but you have to have a tier 3 gold item to get it. Right? So you have to either have Talisman or Frost Queen's Claim or whatever, or any of the ward items. Maybe even just the 4 ward items. That might be going too far. But anyways, you should have an upgraded gold item, and then once you get it, then you unlock these support aspects of these items. And then that way, unless jungler wants to buy like a super upgraded gold item, or unless the mid laner wants to spend 2,000 gold on an item that's going to be awful for them, then they're not going to buy these other items. That's how they should balance it, is create a stat called Support Power and make sure that other lanes do not get those items. And that would make it much, much easier for balancing. But as it stands, the way they currently do it, it's just, that's why Enchanter supports, you know, often are going to be strong now, because of the way that it just has to get balanced so that other lanes don't abuse cool items. Okay? So healing and shielding is a very special item they created for Enchanters. That is still the powerhouse stat until Riot makes that support power stat that I just mentioned, that would also be applicable to tanks and mage supports. That, once again, it would unlock a lot of power on an item that would be very cost efficient, but at the price of you have to have a tier 3 gold item. Okay? So the plus healing and shielding, the reason this is so strong, and I get asked about this all the time, well, why are Enchanters so strong? A major reason is you can distribute that power from plus healing and shielding to other people's. You transfer that power onto an AD carry with a huge shield, or you transfer it onto a tank with a huge shield. When you buy personal stat items for someone like, you know, Braum, if you buy just like a Gargoyle Stoneplate or something, you can't transfer that power to anybody else. That's on you. Those are your personal tank stats. So you can't transfer those. It's non-transferable. Right? And that means that they can just ignore you and kill the carries. So if you're sitting there and you have Gargoyle Stoneplate, Spirit Visage, and Dead Man's Plate on a Braum, well, they're just going to ignore you, because you spent all this gold on stuff that doesn't help your AD carry. It doesn't help any of your other laners. So they can just ignore you. Now, Knight's Vow and Zeke's and stuff like that, they're trying to work around that. But that's the problem, is that healing and shielding transfers power to other characters better than any other stat in the game right now for supports. So that's the problem. Or also, you know, if you're a Zyra, you get your Leandries, you get your Void Staff and stuff like that. That's going to take a long time to get those items, and you can't transfer any of that power. And your power spikes are going to be much, much later than Enchanters, because, you know, you have to buy Leandries, which is 3,100 gold. They're buying Redemption for 2,100. They're buying Ardent Censer for 2,300. So by the time you get your second item, they're going to be on their third item. So you're really behind the curve in terms of power when you play an AP support a lot of times, unless you get a lot of kills and get far ahead early. So this is a structural problem sort of balancing out the game right now that's going to favor Enchanters. And Riot will rebalance this. They'll figure it out. Eventually they'll do something like a support power stat. But right now that's just how it is. So they're not trying to like hardcore favor Enchanters. It's just for all of these reasons, Enchanters are just going to be really strong for the foreseeable future. Now, other stuff is still viable. You can still play tanks and support. You can still play, you know, if they nerf Ardent Censer, which they will, they'll nerf it again. If they nerf Janna directly, nerf Ardent Censer, and then nerf Coin a little bit, then that might tone it down a little bit. But in terms of these runes, a lot of these are going to favor Enchanters. Okay, so let's go ahead and get in here. We still have a little bit of time for this. So I just wanted to preface that, because I get asked all the time about that. Well, why do you play these Enchanter supports? You know, why don't you play these other types of supports? And I'm not alone in this. I mean, if we look at, and then I'll move on here really quickly. Support is extremely powerful right now, first of all, because 4 of the top 11 players at the top of the solo queue ladder. Someone was asking me earlier on stream, and I'm just going to show you this real quick, and then we'll move on. They're just like, oh, supports, you know, how do you carry a support? Supports can't be that strong. Because I was saying that, you know, I thought that some of the weakest lanes right now were like jungle and maybe top lane. And I was wrong about top. Top actually has a lot of people statistically that are strong. But it turns out that it might be mid and jungle. And then someone's like, it's got to be support. Support's obviously the weakest. And I was like, is it? So I went ahead and looked. So MLG Blade is a top laner. Poe Belcher's a mid laner. Not My MVP is an ADC. Humble Diligent is a support. Okay. Thresh, Bard, Karma, Lulu. Okay. So Thresh, you can call him a tank. I think he's closer to utility, but you can play him like a tank. Bard is an aggressive early game champion. And Karma and Lulu are aggressive, but they're enchanters. So you're not seeing like Zyra and, Brand and stuff like that. Vel'Koz, you're not seeing these things up here that often. And you're not seeing a lot of tanks. The only thing that's up here tank-wise is Thresh. I mean, he does play Alistar. Like, Ole can obviously play tanks. But, a lot of his most played champions and his most successful champions are enchanters. Now here, a lot of these are enchanters. He does have a tank here. He doesn't do very well with Misfortune. But Malzahar was early in the season. He played a lot of Malzahar, and that is an AP support that was pretty far out of whack for a while. So he did play a lot of Malzahar. He does play some Ali, but a lot of his most successful ones are also enchanters here. Okay, so that's two supports. Another support, we've got Sona. Whole lot of Sona. Basically, Sona one trick. Sona is extremely powerful. Janna, Karma. He does play Zyra, but it's under 50% on a player that's, well north of 60 on most of his supports. Pro player, so. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 supports. Then the 11th is Joey, and I'm not sure who this is, but that's another support. Karma, Janna, Nami, Taric, right? A lot of enchanters in a lot of these places. Okay, so not only are they supports, they're playing enchanter supports. That's 4 of the top 11 players are supports. And if we look at champions, if we look at ban rates, 3 of the top 5 champions are supports. And 2 of them are enchanters. So we've got Janna and Lulu are enchanters. So supports are very, very important. That's 60% of the top banned things are enchanters. And if we look at stats, look at the win rate here. 3 of the top 4 champions across all ELOs are enchanter supports. Those are the things that win the most games. And 4 of the top 6 champions, period, are enchanters, if you include Taric. I mean, Taric is basically an enchanter. He's a tank, but he's pretty much a healer, shielder, enchanter that just happens to be melee. So 4 of the top 6 champions. And, you might be thinking, well, of course, that's got to be in Challenger, right? It is not. Look at Bronze. Taric, Sona, Janna, 3 of the top 5 enchanters. Silver. Janna, Soraka, Sona. All enchanters. Taric. 4 of the top 5 enchanters. Janna, Sona, Soraka. Taric falls off at this point. Malzahar. That Malzahar could be mid lane. He's probably a mid lane Malzahar, but that's still 3 of the top 5. Platinum, 1, 2, 3 of the top 6. Diamond, 1, 2. So it starts kind of dipping a little bit in Diamond. But you see Janna's number 1 all the time, and she's like the quintessential like OG enchanter. So I just want to throw that out there that enchanters seem very powerful. They are very powerful on all metrics, and you can carry as enchanters. You don't have to play Brand and Zyra to win as support. Okay. So anyways, let's look at this new system here. So I'm going to rate them 1 to 5, then I'm going to break it down and explain it. So 1 is very weak. There's almost always better choices. Number 2 is situational, good in very specific situations. So it might be really good on some champions, but a lot of champions are probably going to avoid it. Okay, 3 is solid. A good pick. You can pick it pretty comfortably a lot of the time. There are other choices. It's not something that you have to take, but it's something that it's pretty good to take. It'll be a pretty standard pick, but there are other choices. Number 4 is a very powerful pick. So this is like something that is stepping up a little bit more than a 3. This is decidedly, you will want this on a lot of champions very often. So you don't have to take it. There will be situations where you take something else in this slot, but it's very, very powerful, and it's unlikely you're going to take anything else. You're probably going to take that. And then number 5 is overpowered. There aren't many 5s. In fact, there might only be one. This is overpowered. It is must-picked. You have to take this. If you play the role, if you can play anything that can use this rune, you have to take it. It's ridiculous. Overpowered, okay? So it's almost certainly going to get nerfed. If it's a 5, it's going to be nerfed. All right? And I put the link here. I found a cool Reddit that someone on my stream linked me that tells almost all of the runes. It doesn't quite have them all. There are a couple, excuse me, that it doesn't have, and I opened them up in a separate tab here. It's just these, I think it's just these 5. These are pretty minor. It's got these 3 and then these 2, which we'll talk about. But it's got everything that's not those on there. Okay, so I just started at the top and just worked my way down. I wish it was in alphabetical order or whatever, but they do it by where it got posted, pretty much. Okay, so let's look. So Berserk. All right, this is absurdly overpowered. Absolutely ridiculous. 100% this is going to be nerfed. There is no way Riot lets this through the development cycle. So we'll go ahead and take a look at him as I talk about him too. Okay, so 3 seconds after damaging a champion, you go Berserk, gaining 60% attack speed for 3 seconds. You can extend it to 10 seconds by attacking an enemy champion. It also lets you go over the attack speed cap. So if some reason, if you're already at the 2.5 attacks per second cap, you can actually go over it. It is very rare to get to that cap, but you could get over it in some situations. That doesn't matter, though, too much. 60% attack speed. I'm pretty sure that 12% attack speed is 300 gold worth of value. Yes. 300 gold is 12% value. So 60% attack speed is times 5. That's a 1,500 gold value rune that is unlocked at level 1 with a very minor conditional that you just have to wait 3 seconds. I mean, you could attack somebody and just back off and just wait, you know, like 3 seconds or so, and then as soon as this triggers, go in, like go hard on them. Right, so yeah, it is conditional, but 60% is way, way over that. It's 1,500 gold value. And you don't have to be, you know, level 10 or anything. It doesn't have to be 10 minutes into the game, as we'll see with some other runes. Like, there are no conditionals. And it lasts for 10 seconds. Are you kidding me? Like, that is absolutely obscene. So you can start off a fight with this. Just hit the tank. And then, you know, 3 seconds in, you're going to have this for the entire rest of the fight. It doesn't even say there's a cooldown on it. Now, there might be a cooldown, but it doesn't say there's one. You know, if there is a cooldown, I imagine it would probably be like, you know, 45 seconds or something. Just like one trigger per encounter. That's crazy. They have to knock this off. Like I said, it's 1,500 gold value. 80 carries would be obscenely strong if this went through. I mean, that'd just be ridiculous. It's way, way too strong. What I think they're going to do, and what would make sense, would be take it down to like 30%. So you start off at 30%, and then as you work your way up to 10 seconds, then you slowly get to 60%. Or you can make it by level. So maybe you start off, if you do it, you know, for 3 seconds and you're level 1, you might only get 10% extra attack speed. But if you're level 11, you know, you might get 40% attack speed. But as it stands, it has to be nerfed. Either limited by level so that you can't completely crush people early game, or scaling up over time, as I suggested here, going from 30 to 60, or from 20 to 40 maybe. It's just way too strong. So, you know, 3 seconds, that's a thing, but, you know, a lot of 80 carry fights are going to last, you know, 3 seconds or more. So this is definitely going to get nerfed. If it doesn't get nerfed, you have to take this every time, no matter what, as an 80 carry. As Master Yi, it's going to dramatically warp the meta because people are going to be playing champions that benefit very heavily from attack speed in a lot of roles. You're going to see a lot more Jax, might see some Irelia, Kled. Obviously, like Master Yi, Kog'Maw would have a field day with this. It's just going to dramatically like alter the meta big time, and I think it's just warping. Like there's no way this gets through production without getting nerfed. This is the only one that I think is number 5 though. I'm pretty sure it's the only one that I ranked as 5. So a lot of this stuff is pretty balanced, I think, considering, in fact, a lot of it is underpowered, I think. Considering like just how crazy some of these things are. I think they've done a pretty good job balancing most of it. So let me preface that. So just because the first one's ridiculous doesn't mean the other ones are. And I'll explain it. Because a lot of people, every time I read about these runes, I watch a video about it on like Philo or Red Mercy or whatever. People are always freaking out in the comments. Oh my god, that's overpowered. That's ridiculous. The game's ruined. Blah, blah, blah. It's really not. It's really not. And I'm going to talk about it when we get to each of these. But this is the only one that legit is over the top, absurdly powerful. It will be nerfed. Mark my words right now. It will be nerfed. Okay, Perxie. So, Perxie's really cool. I like the idea of having a pet that helps you with healing and shielding. I think it's cool. It's like a Pix, kind of. This one is borderline. This one's borderline overpowered. It's very close. Like, this could almost be a 5. This will probably be nerfed. This is going to put Enchanters way over the line if this stays as it is. I mean, Enchanters are already going to be good, as I've stated, for structural reasons, and they're already going to be good because of some other runes too. So I think that this will probably get nerfed. I did a little bit of math here for you. So, you know how Wind Speakers is really good right now? It's like almost a meta-defining mastery, and it gives 10% plus healing and shielding, and it gives you some resistances whenever you heal or shield people. So this, if you have Perxie on a level 9 Janna with Ardent Censer, your base shield is going to be 76. So it says it's 40 to 120, and it's based on levels. So I just assumed, I just averaged what it would be per level to get to 120, and it's about 4. So you would get about an extra 4 shield per level. So you get 76 base shield. So you get 9 levels, that's 36 plus the 40. So that's 76 base shield. And then if you have 84 AP at the time, which is Ardent Censer 20 plus your runes, which would be about 24 if you run all AP blues and Quints, which is what I usually do on Janna, then you're going to get an extra 25 shield. So that takes you to 101 total shield. And don't forget that shield also scales with plus healing and shielding, and your Ardent Censer is going to give you 10%. So it's going to be 111. But even if we only count it as 101, 101 is 42% of 240. That means that this Perxie at level 9 with a Janna shield is going to give you plus 42% healing and shielding on your E. 42%. That is 4 times as powerful as Wind Speakers. That is like almost having every single item in the game right now that gives you plus healing and shielding. It's close. The max you can get right now is 58%, and typically, realistically, it's only going to be 50, and that's if you go Mikhail's, Ardent Censer, Wind Speaker, and Redemption. Okay, you can get another Forbidden Idol if you want, but that's goofy. Okay, so typically the cap is around 50 right now if you go really hard on the plus healing and shielding. This is almost all of that off of one mastery. One mastery. If you put that together with your Ardent Censer, that's a total of 52. That's over the top. One item right now is more than an entire game's worth of plus healing and shielding. That's obviously way too strong. And that's when you have the level 5E. If you do it earlier, like let's say you complete Ardent Censer at level 7, it's still going to be 101, and Janna's Shield's going to be like 210. And so then it's like plus 50% healing and shielding. The damage portion's okay. You know, I don't think that's too over the top. You can only trigger it every now and then. It's only 10 to 40 with virtually no scaling, like a little dinky amount of scaling. Now, here's the thing, though, that could balance this out. It says Perxie cannot be sent out again until she returns to you. So it doesn't say how long the shield lasts, and it doesn't say how long she stays on the person. So it could be like Pix, where she stays out there for a while, then eventually comes back to you. If there's like a 10-second cooldown on this, it might be okay, maybe. That still is going to mean that every Janna Shield's going to have it virtually, though. If there's like a 20-second or a 30-second like cooldown on this, which surely it doesn't take her that long to walk back, you know, then that wouldn't be that great. But if it's something that's like 10 seconds or less in its current form, it's still going to be too strong, I think. I mean, I don't know, like, that's the reason that I gave it a 4, because I'm not sure, because there are other like really strong masteries out there. Like you've got the new it's like Stoneborn Mandate or something like that. It's basically the new Thunderlord's Decree, and you have this other thing, Meteor, which those are on a cooldown. You know, I think Meteor can be down to like an 8-second cooldown, and the new Thunderlords is like a 50-second cooldown. So it'd be a longer cooldown in Perxie, but it does more damage than Perxie. So, I mean, maybe Perxie's okay in its current form. If you can only do it, like, it can't be where every single Soraka heal gets that. That can't happen. So I don't think they're going to let it to where Sona and Soraka all get this bonus shield. I think, you know, they'll probably make it something where it's like 7 or 8 seconds, something like that, before you can trigger Perxie again. She probably stays on there for like 5 seconds and then takes a couple of seconds to like wander back to you. So if you spam heal, you're not going to be able to get it that much. So I wouldn't be surprised if they match this up with Meteor if it's like 8 seconds or so. That might be okay. It's going to be strong as hell. If they do that. It's got a 0.3 on it, which is crazy. Because you can get up to like 200 AP pretty easily if you get Athene's plus Ardent Censer. That would give you an extra 60 shield. I'm just thinking like Perxie plus Athene's plus Ardent Censer is just going to be so much extra healing and shielding on Sona. Now, you might be able to accidentally damage somebody and put Perxie on an enemy. That would be very annoying. That could be a way to balance her too, where if you accidentally like hit an enemy with an auto attack, then Perxie goes to him. So I think they should take off attacks and make it abilities cast on enemies. And it says to a target. So it should be champions so that if you like auto attack a minion wave, Perxie doesn't go on them. That would be frustrating. So I think they'll change this around to where it's like abilities that are cast on enemy champions or abilities that are cast on allies. And this is kind of like a little picks, like I said. So this is pushing the envelope, but I think it could be reasonable. Like I said, it all depends on how long it takes Perxie to get back to you. 8 to 10 seconds would probably be okay. That if you can accidentally send her, that would suck. You know, I think they should probably lower the shield. We'll have to see how it goes, but I think they should lower it from like 30 to 90 with a 0.3. They can keep the 0.3, but this would like keep it in line a little bit. You know, it would drop about 25% of the power off of it. So then you're no longer getting 42%, but you're getting, you know, somewhere closer to like plus 30%, which is still really, really high. But in the context of some of these other masteries, it might be okay. Either way, Perxie, if she's anywhere close to what she is now, it's really, really strong. Really strong. So that's gonna put some enchanters in overdrive for sure if Perxie sticks around. Which I hope she does. I just, you know, we'll see. I mean, they could also just have like some really good tank stuff they just haven't released yet. You know, they could have some really good like support mage stuff that they haven't released yet. All of that's totally possible. But Perxie right there, it's going to be hard to top old Perky for supports. This is this is getting nerfed. There's no question about that. But I think Perky could make it through. I was like calling her Perky. I don't know. Perxie's fun too. But Perxie could make it through. Pretty close to how she is. And she would be strong, but probably not too over the top compared to some of these other choices. Okay, Overheal. This is something that looks good, but in fact is probably bad. Okay, I think this was overhyped. So excess healing becomes a decaying shield for up to 10% of your total health. That can heal you. Huh. Oh, I misread this. Okay, well this is actually pretty garbage. This is like real garbage then. So I thought this was for healers. In my sleep-deprived state, I thought this was for healers. Okay, so I was thinking like Soraka. So what I had thought was, okay, if you could do this with Soraka, if it translates her heal directly into a shield, if it's an overheal. So if you have Malachi sitting there at 3,000 health, he hasn't taken any damage. If you directly heal him, Now, this could work if Malachi takes this. It might work this way, but you can't take it to Soraka to do it to Malachi. If Malachi takes this, or Mundo takes this, it could work this way. But I'm wondering how it interacts with Grievous Wounds. So I'm thinking, like, if it translates immediately to a shield and never actually heals them, then it might come out as a shield, which means that it would not be reduced by Grievous Wounds. So the excess heal becomes a shield. So this means that Sona and Soraka, if you're healing full targets, as long as you don't ever let them go lower than 100%, then you would get a shield, which would bypass Grievous Wounds. So if you just keep healing that, so you just heal the Malachi right when he's about to go in for 300. If he has 3,000 health, that'll give him a 300 shield. And then you just keep healing him again and again and again before he dips down. Now, some of that's going to be overhealed, though. So, I mean, it's cute. Like, that interaction could work potentially. It's not enough. It's not enough to take this, I don't think, as a major rune. It's okay. It's cute, but it looks like you can't even do that on a Soraka. It's like the Mundo or the Malachi has to take that, and then you have to heal them when they have that. So it's like they give themselves their own sort of little spirit massage. But it only, like, really works if you overheal. It seems really weak. That's why I gave it a 2. It's like there might be some cute interactions, like Soraka jumped to mind, Sona, but I don't think it's going to be that good. Okay, Zombie Ward. Very good. Very, very good. Now, it's not like 4 territory because it has competition from another thing, which we'll talk about here in a second. It's a little disorganized. We'll talk about it in relationship to, I forgot what it's called. One of these down here when we get to it, and I'll remind you. But Zombie Ward's actually really cool. I think this is probably the more powerful one that you're going to take. Like, there are 3 different warding enhancements that you can get. You can only take one of them, which makes me sad. I wish you could take multiple. But basically what happens, and there's a video of this. You can see what it is, I think. Okay, well, they show it in another clip in a little bit. But basically what happens is whenever you kill a ward, it leaves a zombie ward, which is 1 hit to kill. It's like a blue ward. The enemy can see it, and it's 1 hit to kill. So it's just like a blue trinket ward, I think. I'm not sure if they get gold for killing it or not. But it leaves a zombie ward. So, and there's an unlimited amount of those. They don't count towards your ward total. So the enemy can go up if they see it and kill it, but it stays there, I think, for 180 seconds. It doesn't count towards your ward limit. So this is pretty interesting. So if you think about it, like, and you don't get a zombie ward off of a zombie ward. People ask about that. So if you kill their zombie ward, you don't get a zombie ward. It's just like you have to kill a real ward to get a zombie ward. So you can't have these zombie ward wars. So, you know, for highly contested places, this could be, like, okay, like a bot lane tri-bush or something like that. It's likely that they're going to clear it out if they have priority in the area. So if you clear out their ward in the tri-bush, like, let me just pull up a map here. Show you what I'm talking about. I'll show you where this will and will not be, like, super useful. Okay, so if you're contesting, let's say you're on red side and you're contesting blue bush. This is a highly, like, blue side almost always has priority on this bush. So if you come in and clear a ward, you're going to get a zombie ward, but it's very highly likely they're just going to come back up and ward it and kill your zombie ward. So it's not really going to have a benefit. In fact, if it gives gold, it might give them 10 gold if you do that. However, if they try to come over and ward this for you, against you, and you clear it out here, and you're on red side, then you might actually get to keep that zombie ward right there. It's possible. They might come over and fight, but they're going to have to fight you for it. If they don't fight you, then you're going to get to keep the ward there. So that would probably be pretty good. If you're fighting in lane and you, like, clear out a ward in this bush, then you get a zombie ward in the bush. So that could be okay if you keep pushing. So basically what this comes down to is if you have power, if you have map presence, this zombie ward is going to be really strong. So if they don't have the vision or the map presence to go back and sweep out your zombie wards, you can have a whole legion of zombie wards, which is very good. So the best case scenario is your team gets ahead. So let's say you get this tower, you get dragon, and then you go in here and start trying to clear out their jungle, right? You use your sweeper, you kill a ward here and here. All of a sudden, you have 2 free wards here. You have a zombie ward, zombie ward. Then that frees up your wards. You can put a ward here, maybe over here. You can put your wards in deeper places and get more thorough vision. Now, they can come back through and kill this, but you're going to see them doing it, and it's going to be very dangerous, and your team could wait and try to kill them while they're coming. So get a lot of free wards. Or if you're trying to go through and you're sweeping to clear out Baron, for example, so let's say that you have a lot of their, tier 1 and tier 2 down, you're trying to bait them in here, you ward over here, you sweep, you kill a ward here, you kill a ward here, then you're going to get free vision in this bush and this bush. Then you could put your ward here, here, and put a pink here. Now, sometimes it's going to be redundant, so if you put a pink on Baron and you kill a ward, there's just going to be another zombie ward there. But sometimes it can actually be pretty useful. On the flip side, if you're on red side and they are pushing into you and they're killing you, and you go through and you clear out their ward here, and you get a zombie ward, and you clear out like wards here and like here, and you get zombie wards, then they can just go back through and clean them out because you're not going to be able to defend them. So it will take them some time and effort to do that, though. So overall, like I said, I think this is probably going to be a really good choice. It's just like if you can't defend an area, you don't get to keep vision, but at least you get vision for a little bit, and they have to go out of their way at least a little bit to go back and clear out the ward if they want to get the vision. So yeah, if you don't have map pressure, they can go clear it out, but they have to actually go take those steps to do it. So I think it's really strong. So sometimes it's going to be useless, if you can't defend an area and you sweep it out. But other times, I think it can be very powerful, especially if you have really strong map presence. Overcharger. Okay, this is a 4. They're probably going to nerf this. They're probably going to nerf it. Like, it's not quite a 5, but it probably could be. It should maybe be a 5. It's on the cusp. So the thing that makes this so strong is that it's a minor ward. Okay, read this. Plus 1% CDR per level up to 10% CDR at level 10. That right there is really good. For a minor ward, that's really good. So that's a 266 gold value because CDR is worth about 26.6 gold per percentage point. However, it gets even better. Each percent of excess CDR is converted to +2 ability power. Adaptive. Now the key here, and I'm reading this again to double check, it doesn't say just the CDR on this item. It says any CDR in excess is converted to +2 power. So it's each percent. So here, like, it could just be from Overcharger. Converts any CDR. Overcharger grants the cooldown reduction to you as you level up and converts any CDR beyond the cap into AD or AP. This opens the door to brand new item builds. So if they're saying that it opens up item builds and they're saying that it converts any CDR, that leads me to believe that any CDR on any item that's beyond the cap, 40 or 45% depending on how you rune, is going to be converted into 2 AP. That is obscenely cost efficient. That's really, really good for a minor rune. Remember, you can have 4 minor runes. This isn't a keystone. This is a minor rune. Like, you will have 1 keystone, you'll have 2 major runes, and then you'll have 4 minor runes that you can get. Okay? So CDR is 26.6, as I said before. AP is worth 21.75. So if you convert 1% CDR into 2 AP, you're actually gaining 17 gold. So if you convert all 10% of the CDR, then you're getting 20 AP, which is 170 gold value. That's 170 gold gained. Which is the difference between the 10 CDR, which is the 266, and the AP. right? So 266 compared to whatever, 420, something like that. It's 170 gained. Okay, so this rune gives you the highly coveted stat early, which is CDR. Lots of champions want CDR early, but a lot of times they just can't itemize into it. Or they just can't get to 40% fast enough, right? But now it converts excess CDR at a rate of 170% of the base value. So you're not only converting it straight over to AP, but you're converting it at a very highly favorable rate. So this conversion applies to all CDR. So that's a free 20 AP most of the time when you convert this build, which is 435 gold that you're getting off of it. So that's a pretty good value. Now you get 435 gold worth of value on any item that has 10% CDR beyond the cap, and that's a lot of items. So if you go for a build like Ionian plus Ardent plus Athemes plus Redemption plus Mikhail's plus Oasis, so that's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. That'd be 60% CDR. In addition to getting 10% off of this, that's 70% CDR. That means you're going to be getting 60 free AP, because that's 30 over the limit, and you're getting 20 per. That's plus 60 AP. These are all, like, good items, you know? A lot of times, the only reason that people won't get Ionians is because it puts them over the CDR cap later on. Yeah, I mean, 60 AP... 1,300 gold on this little minor rune. So that's really good. So it gives you, a 1,300 gold value like really late into the game, and it also gives you a stat early that you really want. So, I think they're going to nerf it. I think they'll make it 1% CDR goes to 1 AP. So that'll still be good, but it won't be as abusable. So it'll still be good. You'll still get like 900 gold worth of, or whatever half of this is. 650. With the early CDR, and I think that's fine for a minor rune. 650 gold value, yeah, please, let's do that. So I think they'll nerf it to 1-to-1 ratio, but if they don't, it's a must-have on everybody, just about no matter what. Because remember, you can have 4 minor runes. It's just one of your 4 runes, and that's an insane value for something that's that minor. I mean, that's like the equivalent, not quite, but it's like saying, you could get off of one, like, rune page, or like one section of your rune page, like you could get some yellows or something like that equal whatever that was, 1,300 gold. So if you look at like standard runes right now, like the best yellows are the health yellows in terms of cost efficiency. That gives you a total of 72 health, right? So you get 9 yellows, 8 health each in terms of like flat early game advantages, times 2.66. That's only 191 gold value. Even if you think of like scaling health, I don't know exactly what the number is off of scaling health. It's probably something like, I don't know, 210 health, 215 health. I think it's something like that. 215 times 2.66 at level 18 is still only 571 value off of an entire yellow page. Scaling blues, I believe, are 27 at level 18. You get a total of 27. That's 587. So, like, some of the most valuable runes you could possibly buy right now in one rune slot, which is, you have 4 different things. You have red, yellow, blue, and quintessences. That's similar to, like, having 4 slots here for minors. It's not even close. Like, it's going to be 600 gold. This thing gives you 1,300 gold. So... off of like a good build late game. So yeah, crazy. Really good bargain. Okay, Essence Thief, you get +1 HP per minion that you kill. So that's 13 HP per minute, or 130 at 12 minutes, because you're not going to kill any minions until 2 minutes into the game. And then 266, roughly, around 22 minutes. Now this assumes that you're near every minion that dies, like in a lane. So that's obviously not going to be that high. You're going to have to roam, you're going to have to back, you're going to have to ward. You might die a couple of times, something like that in 22 minutes. So it's not going to be that high, but it's close. So, on tank supports, having an extra 260 health is pretty good for the mid game. I mean, 260 health's worth 2.66 each. So you've got 260 times 2.66. you know, you're getting to about 700 gold, which once again is nowhere even remotely close to this Overcharger in terms of value. But it's still all right. You know, it's okay. I think that's a medium rune. That's not even a minor one. No, it is a minor one. It's a minor one. 1 health per minute. So it's okay. You know, I think you'll obviously want to get that on like tank supports. You're not really going to care about the AP on most tanks, but it's okay. It's no Overcharger, but it's pretty good. Okay, Bloodlust. Pretty garbage. All this does... This is a keystone. So this is one of your big ones. Like, you remember, you only get to take one of those. You get, whenever you kill somebody, you get 15% of your missing health back. Great. I mean, so it's basically like Dangerous Game, but you have to spend an entire keystone to use it. And you have to get the kill. It does not count on assists. It's only the kill. You have to get it. So, a lot of times, you know, you're only going to take... you're only going to need this if an Ignite's going to kill you. Because on a lot of champions that would want this kind of thing, they're going to be assassins. Or someone who gets resets, I guess. So it needs to be a champion with a lot of resets, like maybe an Akali or a Katarina. But then why would you not take one of these damage ones, like the new Thunderlords that we'll talk about here in a second, the Mandate? Why would you not take that for more damage to make sure you kill them in the first place? Or, you know, so it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's just not strong enough. Like, if that was like a minor rune, if it was like 10% missing health on a minor rune, then we could talk about it. But 15% on a keystone is just awful. That's bad. Don't do that one. Like I said, there might be a couple of like really weird scenarios where maybe you want to do that, but it's most of the time no. Ruined King's Tribute. Okay, so this is basically Grasp of the Undying. Pretty much. And it's basically outclassed by everything else, just like Grasp of the Undying right now. So every 4 seconds in combat, your next attack deals damage to nearby champions and large monsters. So you only heal off of champions. You can hit multiple champions. Now, it doesn't say what the radius is on it. If the radius is, 250 or greater, like all around you, then, it might be pretty good, potentially. Like, if you could, like, comfortably in a team fight hit it on, like, 2 or 3 different people that might be clumped up, then it could be good. But most of the time, it's going to be pretty garbage. I mean, it's a keystone. You got to remember, this. We're comparing this to Berserk and Perxie. Like, it's nowhere even remotely close in power level to those things. You could, once again, if you're a champion like that just wants to trade a lot, you could go for the new Mandate, the new Thunderlords, or you could go for Meteor, or you could go for, there's just a bunch of better options than that. It's just not worth it. Perfectionist. This is probably the biggest joke that I've seen in terms of its current iteration. They have to buff this, like, huge. While you're above 80%, you get up to 14 attack damage or plus 20 ability power adaptive, which means you only get one of those. When you're level 18, it's based on level. So when you're level 18, you get plus 20 ability power. We just saw an Overcharger, you get plus 20 ability power for, like, one item that goes over the cap. This doesn't give you, like, it gives you very small scaling stuff, and the top end is just a complete joke. Like, why would you ever get this over Berserk, or Perxie, or Mandate, which we'll talk about in a little bit, or Meteor, or even Overcharger. Overcharger is a freaking minor rune. This is a Keystone Mastery rune. So this needs some serious help. Right now, it is just absolute trash. And it's only when you're above 80% health. If you take a hit at all, hardly, you're going to lose the entire bonus. So it's kind of like a Mage Eyes to some extent. Not if you die, but if you just lose your health, you lose the bonus. Complete garbage. Like, what they need to do with this is it needs to scale over time if you stay over 80%. So if you're a true perfectionist, if you don't take hits in the game, that makes it more like a Mage Eyes, but at least it would be viable. Do something like 2% of the total damage that you deal with champions gets converted to AP or AD. You do a smaller ratio for AD because AD is more powerful than AP because of scaling and the fact it can hit towers, it's an auto attacks, all that stuff. So whatever, something like that where 2% gets converted. So that would actually make sense on like a poke champion with conversion. Now it's still not going to be as good as Meteor. Potentially, Meteor is very strong, which we'll talk about in a little bit on poke champions. But we still would put it in the running. So, if you poke out somebody for 2,000 damage, or if you completely one-shot somebody with LeBlanc for 2,000 damage and take no hits in return, and you get kind of that perfect assassination, then you would be rewarded with 40 AP for 2,000 damage. You deal 1,000 damage, you'd get rewarded with 20 AP. So, and that sounds really strong, right? Like, oh my god, 40 AP off of a kill? If you kill somebody who's 2,000 health? Yeah, but you got to remember, Mage Eyes gets up to like 120 or something. It takes more kills to do it, but if you get put anywhere below 20%, like you take anything more than 20% damage, you would lose all of your stacks on this because it's Perfectionist, and you have to start over again. So if you're just really snowballing super hard, you could go with this, but if anybody hits you with anything hardly, then you'd lose everything. So I think that would be a cool dynamic. I don't know if that'd be healthy for the games that would encourage like snowballing and smurfing and, stuff like that a little bit more. But, it seems like that's what this is aiming for in terms of Perfectionist. Like it really wants you to be good. You could knock it down to 1% if you want, but I don't think that's enough payout for how risky this is. If you want like a premier rune that's like high risk, high reward, I think that's a better way to do it where if you stay a Perfectionist, you get all these extra bonuses over time. Okay, magical footwear. As it stands, this is bad. Yeah. So this is a keystone. From what I understand, this is a keystone. If this is a minor rune, it could be good. But I think they have it listed as a keystone on here. Yeah, keystone. It's bad. It's not like super bad, but it's not good. Okay, so you basically get 300 gold at 10 minutes if you don't buy boots. So you get a free pair of boots. You also get a slight bonus. You get 10% movement speed. But you can't buy boots in the interim. So you magically get these boots, but you can't buy any. So that would be great as maybe a minor rune. Like I said, it's the 300 gold value. It's much, much less than Overcharger. It's weaker than Overcharger. But, you get the value right off the bat. Right, you don't have to wait to get all these extra items in the late game. So, and it's at 10 minutes, which, with Overcharger, you're going to be at 10% CDR, which is a 266 gold value. So it'd just be like marginally better than Overcharger early, but weaker later. But it is much, much weaker than Perxie. There is no universe where you would take this over Perxie. Like, what I think they should do is if they want to keep this as a keystone, it needs to be at least a 900 gold value. It needs to be really valuable. So they should give you a free tier 2 pair of boots at 20 minutes. So at 10 minutes, they give you a brown boot. And at 20 minutes, you get a tier 2 boot. So you can't upgrade your boots till then, so it's risky. But you would only be able to choose from Ionian boots, mobility boots, or swiftness boots. So it's always 900 gold. So you can't get Mercs, you can't get Ninja Tabi. Those are more expensive. But keep it at 900 gold boots. And that would average out over the course of 20 minutes to about 45 gold per minute. So that's like you're getting like one extra gold coin off of coins right now per minute, which is okay. When you're comparing it to something like Perxie, yeah. That's because you're going to have some good stuff. You're going to run me off of Perxie, you're going to have some good stuff. Because Perxie brings the heat, okay? She's a firecracker. She's super powerful. So if you're going to convince me to not run Perxie, you better have some dang good stuff up your sleeves. And this is just not good enough. If it was a minor rune, like I said, okay, I might run it as a minor rune, but, it's still weaker than Overcharger, but I would probably still run it. Okay, stopwatch is interesting. So you basically get a free 600 gold item. I don't remember. Okay, this is a medium rune or whatever they call it, a major rune. So this is kind of in between. So you get 2 of these. So you get 4 minor ones, 2 majors, and 1 keystone. So this is a major rune. So you only get 2 of them. So it's important, but it's not as important as a keystone. At first I thought this was trash, but I looked at it a little bit more, and it's okay. So I'm going to give it a 3. It's like, it's solid. For people that want this type of item, it'll be good. So you get 600 gold towards Zonya's Hourglass or Guardian. You get this little pocket watch early. You can use a stasis at 6 minutes for free if you want to. Now, it does take up an item slot, and it doesn't do anything. From what I understand, it doesn't do anything. So that's a consideration, is it's dead weight in your inventory, which is definitely significant. It's dead weight until you get your Zonya's Hourglass. But it has a nice effect early. Has pretty good scaling with a good cost. You know, you get up to 600 gold off whenever you buy Zonya's. Because it costs 600 gold to buy one of these in the store. And it gives you pretty good CDR. So let's look at it real quick. So basically, you can buy it in the store. It's 600 gold. You start off with one that turns into the one you can buy in the store at 6 minutes. And you can use it once. You get a broken watch. You can still use the broken watch to upgrade, but you can't use it to Hourglass anymore. And it reduces the cooldown of Hourglass and Guardian's Angel by 15%. Okay, so that means more Zonyas. Primarily, you can combine this with another rune if you want that reduces items by an additional 5%, get 20% off of it. So that's pretty good. I mean, if you're a champion who's very heavily reliant on Zonyas, or you really like it, like a Fiddlesticks or a Kennen, maybe Vlad. Like, there are several champions that might be interested in this. Maybe even Fizz or Echo. Like, anyone that's going to want this. It's a pretty good value. I mean, 600 gold is nice. That's like 2 extra kills. The problem is you usually don't get Zonyas until like a second or a third item. So this, like I said, would be sitting as dead weight in your inventory, and you can't cash it until later. You can rush Zonyas right off the bat, but it's not going to be great in a lot of matchups. Maybe if you're getting Zed, you could buy one of these, Pocket Watch, and that would actually be really good, because it's okay to rush Zonyas against Zed. So we'll see. It's okay. I mean, it's decidedly pretty balanced, pretty good bargain for a major rune. I like it. Channel Blink, super overhyped. So let me talk about this one really quick. I saw people freaking out about this on Red Mercy's channel when he was talking about this when this got released the other day. This is not that great on the vast majority of champions, because you have to remember, and people trip about this, it is a keystone rune, from what I understand. It might be just a major rune. Let me see. Let me go back and look. Okay, it's a major rune. So not quite as bad as a keystone, but you're still getting it instead of, some other potentially good major runes. Like the Trophy Collector, like Watchful Poro, and like up here, the Zombie Ward. Those are major runes. All of those are going to be better, at least for supports. So what this thing does is whenever your flash is on cooldown, you have a 20-second additional cooldown that you can use where you can't use it in combat, so there's no combat usage of this, but you can channel for 2.5 seconds and flash forward the length of a flash. That's it. That's what you're buying with your rune. There's no stats on it, and it only works if your flash is on cooldown. So Red Mercy was saying things like, well, that's encouraging bad behavior. Like, people are stupid, they'll just waste their flash for this. And at first glance, it seems like that, right? Like, it could bait people to waste flash so that they can use this ability. But you got to think bigger than that. There are champions that are going to use their flash a lot because they need to initiate with it. So I'm thinking like Annie, top of the list, because she wants to flash Tibbers. Malphite would love this. Fiddlesticks. Kennen. There are a lot of champions that use their flash often to start fights, and then this gives you a way that you can start a fight again even when your flash is on cooldown. Now, you want to be out of sight to do this because they're going to see you channeling a lot of the time. Now, I'm wondering if while you're channeling this, you can cast things. Probably not. But yeah, so you could basically, you could like jump over a wall with this and just Tibber somebody, basically, because you obviously can jump over a wall. You can either channel and jump out of a bush or jump over a wall or something. Tibbers people, or you can flash over a wall, fear somebody, and then ult them with Fiddlesticks. Like, there are several applications on champions that are naturally going to use their flash a lot. You can hop over a wall with this with Malphite and then ult people. There are several applications. So Akali would not be a good person to use this on. So it's not going to be great on everybody. In fact, it's going to be actively bad on most people. Because most people don't want to use their flash, right? Unless you have to. And it's not going to get you out of combat. This is specifically for people who want to jump walls and start fights, basically. Or for junglers that just want a little bit of extra pathing. But once again, there aren't going to be a lot of junglers that, other than like Fiddlesticks, that want to use their flash. Like super aggressively. So, you know, Annie, Fiddle, Ken, and Malphite, that's what I thought of. So it'll be pretty good on specific champions, but I think there will probably be better choices on most champions. So it's okay. Let's look at store credit. So this is really disappointing. I think this is a super cool idea, but the numbers are just way, way too weak on this. They are just really, really weak. So I like the concept. Basically, what this should do, if they tweak it correctly, is you get an earlier power spike in exchange for slowing down your second item significantly, because you have to pay back the money that you borrowed. That's the thing, is you don't get this for free. You have to pay it back with interest. So when it says, you know, you get 150 gold or whatever, you have to pay that back. So I imagine it would be something like you would go in debt like 200, and then before you can buy anything else in the store, then you have to pay back that 200. So the 200 might just be tagged on to the next thing that you want to buy. So everything looks like it costs 200 more in the store. Because I assume you can only go into debt with like one item. The problem is these numbers are really low. So, you know, in theory, this could let you get to Ardent Censer, Redemption, Athene's, Sightstone. I mean, Ardent Censer would be the big one right now, but, you know, it would just let you hit these core power spikes faster. But the numbers are way too small. I mean, at 10 minutes, it's only 200 gold. You have 150 base, and then you only get 5 per minute. Really? 200 gold? You're borrowing that 200 gold at 10 minutes. Whereas if you have the magical footwear, you're getting free boots, 300 gold. Like, just on the house to get those boots. You know, and the Overcharger, just the CDR is worth 266 gold, in addition to all the extra perks of Overcharger. You have footwear, and then you have the health gaining item that I talked about before, which is 277. So all those items give you free value. You don't have to pay it back. But with store credit, you have to pay it back, and that's the problem. So the reason why I believe they're doing this, the reason they're being very conservative with this, is there's no cap on when you can spend this. So at the very beginning of the game, you have an extra 150 gold, as it stands right now. So that means you can come to a lane with an additional 5 potions. You can come to lane with a Reju Bead, Fairy Charm. I'm trying to, and there's possibly like other unique things you could start off at. You couldn't quite get to like 2 longswords as an 80 carry. I mean, that'd be super greedy, obviously, but if you had like a Sona, maybe you could pull it off. I mean, you could maybe, you'd have like 650 gold. I don't know how much a cull is. It's possible. Like, you could get some, you know, you could get something. Like, it'd probably just be like an extra Reju Bead as a support, or maybe some more potions or something like that. But you're paying 50 gold for that, so... And you're putting yourself in debt. You would have to pay it back later. So that's the problem, is that I think they're playing it safe because they don't want people early on in the game to be able to get too much of a power spike. Like, coming in with 3 extra potions can be pretty game-breaking in some matchups, especially like top lane. You know, if you start off with the corrupting potion and 3 other potions, or just whatever. Like, I'm sure there are some permutations that could be abusable early. So what they should do is you can't borrow until 2 minutes, so you can't do it until you're first back. And then you should be able to borrow 200 plus 20 per minute. So that means, you know, at 10 minutes, you'd have 400 gold. So that's actually a significant amount. That would let you buy Ardent Censer much faster, or that would let you buy something else much faster. But then increase the interest to 20% of the amount borrowed. So raise the interest, but also raise the cap on how much people can borrow. So that way they can buy something substantial and meaningful ahead of the curve, but they're paying a steeper price for it. So then it just kind of highlights the purpose of this item, which is power spike faster at the cost of slowing down your second item. and that would make it, you know, that would make it interesting, right? So then you could say, all right, so then Ardent Censer, I can get it 1 back faster, but, you know, if I drop, you know, if I get Ardent Censer at 12 minutes, 1 back faster, excuse me, then I'm going to have to, let's see, that'd be 440 I would borrow. I'm going to have to pay back 20% of that. So it's going to be like 85 gold. And I have to pay back, which is significant. But it could be worth it if I get that Ardent Censer faster. Jesus, I thought I could do this in an hour. There's no way I ever do any of these things in an hour. It's going to be like 2 hours. Okay. Okay, so Guardian Soul. This looks like it could be okay, but I think in reality it's going to be bad. So, how it works right now, you have to walk up to somebody in melee, click on the little plus near them, and then channel a shield. So it has like a 1 second channel. It's like maybe not 1 second, but like a half second channel is what it looks like. And it only shields for 100, which is pretty good at level 1 or 2. Obviously, shielding for 100 is good, but it's going to have a cooldown. I'm not sure what it is, and probably pretty long. Probably kind of like Courage of the Colossus right now. And you just have to get into melee, and you have to channel it and prep. Like, if they're running away from you, this Caitlyn was running, you're not going to be able to channel it because she's going to run out of channel range. I think. So, it's just really hard to play around this with your allies, I feel like. So you have to be a melee, you have to channel, and I assume it will probably get canceled if your ally runs away from you. So, that's a keystone. That's not a major rune, that is a keystone. Perxie's just way better. I mean, maybe, like, obviously this is designed like they showed for Braum or Alistar or someone like that who doesn't have a heal or a shield, but Alistar has heals, but Braum doesn't. So, I don't know. I think that's probably pretty weak. I mean, I was just thinking you could use, like, Perxie with Stoneborn Pact, but that's obviously not going to be around anymore, so... Anyways, pretty weak, pretty weak. It looks cool, but it just has way too many execution problems. Even if they made the numbers a bit bigger, it's hard to pull off. Okay, so this is the new Thunderlords. This is the Stormlord's Mandate that I mentioned earlier. So if we look at the numbers on this bad boy, 50-second cooldowns. This is a really, really long cooldown. This is like, you definitely want to do this on an all-in when you're trying to kill somebody, probably. So it's 40 to 220 damage, which is a lot, and then plus 25% bonus AD, plus 20% ability power. So that's pretty good. I mean, 220 damage is quite a lot. It's way more than Thunderlords is right now. I mean, I can look up Thunderlords real quick. So if we look at this, you know, this is only 180. So it's 30, 10, and then 180, but it's only on a 20-second cooldown. So 180, 30, 10. This is 220, and it has a bigger ability power, but a slightly less bonus. So you're getting like 40 more damage at the top end. You're getting way more early, though. This is 40 at level 1. The other one is 10 at level 1. But this is like a 2.5 times the cooldown, so it's a lot harder to spam this in lane. But it does more damage for all in, so it's okay. I mean, that's why I put it as a 3. I think this will be something that's pretty standard that a lot of all-in champions will get, potentially, who want some pretty good trading in lane, but it's not overpowered. Spellslinger Surge, I think this is bad. This is kind of like Storm Raider Surge right now, where there just aren't a lot of champions that get it. There are some, but there aren't a lot, because it doesn't have any damage. It does let you run people down. So hitting a champion with 3 unique attacks or abilities within 2 seconds grants 30 to 60% movement speed for 3 seconds. So it does let you do some damage and then run away or chase people down after you do damage. So instead of spiking them with a lot of damage and getting this, you're going to have to hit them with 3 things to get it. So I think Cassiopeia, this would still be good on her because obviously she casts spells really quickly. But a lot of other champions, it's difficult to see like why they would get this. I mean, maybe, but it seems rare. This, by the way, they changed to 3 unique attacks. So it's no longer like just one thing can proc it, basically. So you can't just drop like a Morgana W on them and proc this anymore. Thunderlords, or just like hit them with some Zyro Plants and proc it. It has to be unique attacks or abilities that trigger it. So all of these make these like okay. I think this one's weaker. I gave this one like two stars and this one 3 stars. So this one's like okay. A lot of people will probably run it. This one's pretty garbage most of the time. It might be alright in some circumstances. Okay, Hunt of the Blood Moon. Now this one is pretty dang powerful. At first I thought this was garbage because it has a really long cooldown. 180-second cooldown. It gets enchanted to your boots. So anything that like reduces your item cooldown reduction, so like Ruby Sightstone or the rune that reduces items, intelligence. Like there are a few things that do it. But has a long cooldown. It doesn't do as much damage as the new Thunderlords. It only has 60 to 40 instead of 40 to 180. So it has more at the bottom, but less at the top end. Then it has like okay ratios. It's 0.2 bonus AD or 0.3 AP. But the big thing that makes this crazy is it's 35% movement speed for 15 seconds. That is an insanely long a time. And now you have to channel it for 3 seconds. So you can't do this in lane very easily to like run people down. Because if someone hits you, damaging attacks or abilities end it. So if someone hits you, then it stops you from doing it and it goes on cooldown. But if you get it off, if you get it fully channeled, you get that movement for 35% move speed. Now note, it does not say that move speed ever decays, right? So if you get hit by a champion, it doesn't decay. If you get stunned, it doesn't decay. So if anything happens to you, you're still going to have that movement speed for 35% until you hit someone with a damaging attack or ability. So this could potentially let you run like halfway across the map super fast and gank people. And that's why I think this is going, that's why I gave it a 4. Because I think a lot of champions, I think this is going to be like the standard for the jungle. I think that like pretty much every jungler is going to run this item. And they're going to start off with a jungle item. They're going to get boots first, and then they're going to off to the races. Now, it starts off on cooldown at level 1, so it's 3 minutes before you can even use it. But yeah, I think this is just going to be so hard for people to peel this. It's just going to get people right on you. I mean, you can run at them with a Malphite and just bypass everybody. You can run at them with Cho'Gath. I mean, it's just like you have a little mini Righteous Glory that's on a 3-minute cooldown that's on your boots to some extent. Like, you are getting on them with this. And it deals extra damage. I mean, you could combine it with Righteous Glory to run at them if you want to. But I think this is just going to be, like, mandatory must-have on virtually all junglers. You know, just imagine Jarvan running at you, Cho'Gath running at you, like... There's so many scary things that can happen here, and no one can stop it. Until they hit somebody. At least that's how it seems like it's worded right now. So, anyways, I think that's going to be super strong. And you're going to see some mid laners, too, that might also run this. Maybe some top laners, but you'll see some highly roaming mid laners that like it, too. So I think that's going to be really strong. Meta-defining pick. Okay, Watchful Poro. This looks actually really cool and fun, and it's a shame that the way that it's worded right now, major slot sneak peek. Oh, I thought it was called sneak peek was their major slot. That would actually kind of make sense. But you can only get one of these runes that I'm about to talk about here. There are 3 choices, but you can only get one. And I wish you could get all 3 and just become like a super vision master if you wanted to. But it looks like that's not going to be the case. So Zombie Ward we just talked about. You just get to see it in action here if you watch. So you watch Hecarim kill this ward. And you basically get what looks to be like a little blue ward. It's got like one hit, and it's always visible. Okay? Watchful Poro is another one. So how this works is whenever you step into a bush, it leaves a little Poro there. And then when you step into another bush, it moves it to another bush. So it's basically like a permanent ward that you have down in the nearest bush. But if anyone gets close to it, I think, let me see. Until an enemy champion scares it away. I'm not sure what that means. So if it sees a champion, it might run away, or I don't know if it has to see them. So they might have to physically step into the bush to run it away. But you permanently have a ward whenever you step into a bush. It's just if the enemy walks into that bush and sees them, then you're not going to have one. So this could potentially be pretty good. I mean, so you could just like always keep a Poro in your bush ward here, or you could just put it just wherever you want to put it. But like in lane, you're not going to have that many options. Like you could put it in one of these lane bushes or over here. But if, you know, down here, if they just step into this lane bush and see it, it's going to make it disappear. Which you can just put it right back in there if you want to. There's no cooldown on it. So that's okay. So it's like you get one permanent ward that's pretty conditional. And you have to have like control of an area or they're just going to clear it out. So like you could just walk up here and put it in this bush if you want to. But then if they ever walk in that bush, they're going to see it. So it's interesting, but you have to choose between that and zombie wards, and I feel like zombie wards are just going to be better because you can have more of them, although obviously they can be cleared. I think there are key moments where zombie wards will just give you just a massive swath of vision after you clear out a jungle. So I don't know. It's cute, it's useful, but I'm not sure if it'll be that good. This is a bit more interesting. I would have all three of these. Like I said, if I could, I'd have all three of these, because I think that would be some awesome vision game right there. But Trophy Collector. Gain 1 ability power or 0.7 attack power when you or an ally kill an enemy champion or ward. So that's actually pretty powerful. So you're getting about like 21, almost 22 gold value worth of power every time you get an assist. And every time your team kills a ward. Now, if I look at one of my most recent games, I think I had 40. Let me see. How many wards were killed? 3, 5, 15, 17 wards were killed. And then 23, 26, 29, 38. 2 is 40. So combined killed wards and killed champions were 40. So if you think that you're going to get like participation in half of those, which is pretty reasonable, you might get a little bit more than that, but if you're going to get half of those, that's like you're getting 20 AP. So that's pretty good. I mean, that's about the same as Overcharger at one point. There's about a 435 gold value at the end of the game for that. And then killing a ward is going to give you 51.75 gold because you get normal ward kill, and then you get this bounty extra AP. So that means to buy a pink ward, if you use a pink to kill a ward, you're only really paying 23 gold. That's particularly powerful. Now, I'm not sure if that includes blue wards and zombie wards. If you get the extra AP off of killing blue wards and zombie wards, then it's extremely powerful. If you don't, then it's like, it's okay. It's okay. So I think I would probably go with zombie most of the time, but Trophy Collector could be cool. Poro could be useful if you're an invade jungler that just really wants to keep sight of the enemy while you're running around their jungle. That could be good. So it's interesting. I just have a couple more left, and that's going to be it. I know I'm bordering on 2 hours here, which I really, really wanted this to be an hour, but there's just so much to cover. Okay, so Meteor is another one. This is really a pretty strong one. This could potentially be a 4. This is Keystone. So damaging a champion with an ability hurls a meteor at their location. If the meteor hits them, it deals 40 to 100 based on level. And then plus it has a 0.2 AP and a 0.2 bonus AD ratio. And the cooldown goes from 20 seconds to 8 seconds in the game. So in the game, you know, if you have 300 AP, you're going to get an extra 160 damage, basically, if this Meteor hits people. It looks like it can hit multiple people. If you see that little red ring on the gift there, looks like if people were grouped up, it could hit a bunch of people. Now, they can dodge it. They can outplay it. So if you hit them with something and they move, you know, they could outplay it. So, you know, at first I was wondering, why would you get this over the new Thunderlord's Decree or whatever, the mandate? But this only has, even at level 1, it only has a 20-second cooldown, and mandate has a 50-second cooldown. So you can cast this 2.5 times as much as you could do mandate. So that means really over 50 seconds if you do this on cooldown, which of course that's not going to happen precisely that way. But, you know, you could time it to be pretty close to that. You know, to be closer to like 100 to 250 damage with a 0.2 ratio. So that's getting closer to Thunderlords. But another key thing here is you don't have to hit 3 consecutive abilities in a row, like auto and 3 abilities. If you just hit them with any ability, it's going to throw that at them. And then as it scales up to late game, you know, 8 seconds in the late game is crazy. So I think that's super strong. It adds a lot of extra poke. It adds a lot of extra all-in damage. Especially as that cooldown starts going down as you level up. I mean, now, you know, once again, there is counterplay to it. There is no counterplay to mandate, at least unless they just dodge your abilities or something. It's going to go off if you land 3 abilities. So this looks like it moves pretty quickly, though. Like, I don't think a lot of people are going to have time to dodge it. But anyways, very strong. Expect to see that on a lot of mid lane champions. You might see some Thunderlord stuff on some of them instead, but if this stays relatively close to what it is now, I think a large portion of mid laners are going to run this. Okay, Summoner Specialist. This is another one where I feel like people were just losing their mind, freaking out, like thinking this is like going to ruin the game. It's like everything's in balance and all this stuff. I don't think it's that bad. It's okay. I gave it a 3. So this is one of just the newer things that they're trying to do in this preseason. So basically what it does, it lets you switch your summoner spells out in game, and it gives you a 15% cooldown on summoners. So the way that this works is you start off with 1 summoner shard, and you gain additional summoner shard each time you cast a summoner. You can swap to a different summoner by exchanging 3 shards at the shop. So that means after you use your summoners, 1 rotation, then you can switch out one of your summoners for another summoner. Okay? But the key to maintain here is, or the key to keep in mind here, is that the cooldown remains the same, and it's on cooldown even if you swap summoners. So, you know, if you use Flash as your last summoner, and then you go in and you try to pick up something with a low cooldown like Exhaust, it's still going to have Flash's cooldown ticking. Okay, so you cannot circumvent that. You can't put one of your long cooldown, you know, summoners, just get rid of it and get something fresh. It's going to have the same cooldown, so you cannot circumvent cooldowns with this. Okay, so that out of the way. Why would you take this then? Now keep in mind, you are picking this over Perxie. You're picking this over Berserk. You're picking this over Meteor. You're picking this over the new Thunderlord's Decree. Right? Mandate. So you're picking it over those, and this has no inherent damage in it. No inherent damage. You do get 15% cooldown on your summoners, which is good. So why would you ever pick this then? The reason you would pick this is you can assert lane dominance early, and I think top lane will be the place where you do this. So you can take something like ridiculously aggressive, potentially, like Ignite Exhaust, or something like that. And then you can go all in for super hard cheese and try to kill them at level 2. And if it works, use both of your summoners, and then you can go back in and switch for Flash. Now, it's still going to have the cooldown of Exhaust or Ignite, but, you know, in 3 minutes, if you get a kill top lane level 2, you can just be safe for 3 minutes, and then you're going to have Flash. You can keep, like, Ignite Flash, and then after you use Ignite 2 more times in fights, Then in the mid game, you can go back and get teleport, and then you'll have flash teleport for the mid to late game. If you're forcing a lot of trades, if you're using your summoners on cooldown, and if you use very aggressive summoners early. I think that's how, if it does get used, I think that's how they would use it. Is to take like exhaust, like ignite exhaust for top lane. You could also just go like ignite flash, just standard, so you're kind of safe, but you do have all in with ignite. And then just use your ignite twice at some point before 10 minutes during an all in, and then switch it out to teleport for the mid game. So it lets you run ignite and then have teleport for the late game. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Is it better than Meteor or the all in? Maybe. Top lane's not going to be using Meteor as much because usually that's a lot of melee champions. They might use the Thunderlords more often. It just depends on whether you think there's more kill pressure by taking Thunderlords or whether there's more kill pressure by taking Ignite. So I think Ignite does give you more kill pressure early, but it's not going to give you as good of an all-in later once you have to switch back to teleport. So I think it's a really good, like, interesting choice that you have to make where you can go all-in early if you want to. And you should. If you do this, you have to go all-in. You have to try to get kills with the summoner because you're just going to get outscaled by other things later on. This is definitely an all-in early game summoner. That's how I think it is anyways. So you really need to get a kill. But it's only for top lane. I think support's going to run Perxie a lot of the time. ADC is going to run Berserk unless they change it. But even after they nerf it, that's probably what ADCs are going to run. Even in its nerf state. Mid lane can either run Mandate, Meteor, or the Blood Hunt. I think all of those will probably be better. And jungler is almost always going to run Hunt. So I think this would be a top lane cheese type of thing if you want. Okay, let's move on. So, cool, but not nearly as ridiculous. Everyone, is freaking out like, oh my god, you can switch out and you can get flash and, all this stuff. It's like, it looks flashy and cool, but honestly, like, you're trading so much damage by not having, the new Thunderlords or Meteor or something that it's not going to get used as much as people might think. Okay, Hextech Freezeway, this is a steaming pile of garbage, I think. I mean, this just seems really bad. Your first attack on a champion slows them for 1.5 seconds. That's it. Your first attack slows them. That's it. It doesn't do any damage. It's just straight up, it slows them for a little bit. Additionally, your active item slows create an icy zone around the target for 5 seconds, slowing by 70%. So if you, Blade of the Ruined King somebody, or you Hextech Gunblade somebody, or you GLP somebody, then they're going to get these slow fields. But it's no extra damage. It's just like a little slow. So I really think this is pretty garbage. It's pretty trash, for being honest. There's just almost literally no reason you would ever run this. I mean, this is one of the worst ones out there. So it's an interesting idea, but if it doesn't have damage on it, or if you can't just like, if all of your attacks... Now, if this made like all of your attacks slow people, that would be a lot more interesting. Or like every second or third attack slows people. If it didn't have any damage, that might be worth it. I mean, I guess the cooldown does eventually get to 3 seconds. So you could have someone permaslow to be 1.5 second uptime. And then 1.5 second downtime. So they'd be slowed like half the time. I don't know. So it's kind of like you sort of have like a little mini Frozen Mallet. I just think it's too weak. They need to make it to where it's like it's up a lot more than that. Or maybe it's not like absolutely 100% permaslow, but it's pretty close is what they would need to do, I think. I mean, it does go to 40% slow on your first attack. I mean, like late game, if you get a 40% slow on your ranged attack that lasts for 1.5 seconds. So it's like hits somebody who's trying to run away. They're slowed by a ton for 1.5 seconds. And then you keep running them down with like a vein or something. And then you get a 3 second after that. Like, it's okay. I mean, like, I guess some stuff might be okay with it. But the thing is, keep in mind all that other stuff. Are you really going to run this over Berserk? Are you really going to run it over like Blood Hunt? Are you really going to run it over these other things? Because if it wasn't a Keystone, it might be more interesting. But Keystone is just It's too much. Okay, I'm not going to look at these individually. This is a choice you have to make. Where you get out of combat movement speed per unique champion kill, item active CDR per unique champion kill, by 10%, which is that's interesting. Or spell vamp, I think it's 10%. Or spell vamp per unit kill. This is something we kind of looked at earlier. Skimmed over that. So 5% active item CDR, so you could get up to, 25% or 20% active CDR, which is okay, I guess. I mean, that would work with the Blood Call. That's the 80, the 180 second cooldown. Blood Moon Hunt. So that would be a decent thing with that, but I don't know. They need to tinker with these numbers. This 40 or this 10 out of combat movement speed could be pretty good. I mean, you could get up to 40 out of combat movement speed if you kill the 4 people. So that could be good, but it's okay. I mean, you have to choose one of those, and I would choose the out of combat move speed, I think. Okay, hunters. Okay, I just talked about the hunters. The next one is like panic. I think it's down here. Okay, so don't panic. Heals and shields are 5% stronger, increase to 10% on targets below 40%. Obviously, you take this as an enchanter. Panic, gain 10% movement speed towards nearby allies that are crowd controlled, or enemies that you crowd control. I mean, 10% move speed is okay, but that's just too gimmicky, I think. I mean, it helps on roams if, like, your mid lane slows somebody and you could run faster to them, but I think it's just too conditional. I would rather have Don't Panic for enchanters, and I'd rather have Essence Thief for tanks. So, that's just all there is to it. This is just really anemic and weak. And this, obviously you would get this on enchanters, and then, obviously you would get this on tanks, I think. Okay. Another one is Discipline. Say Heavy. I think it... Here we go. This is stuff at the bottom. So, you can do gain 5 armor plus 2 for nearby champions. So all of that's good early. Or you can go for Discipline, which is after 10 minutes you get 10 armor, 10 magic resist, and then the plus 2 per. This is far, far better, obviously. Like, you're not going to have it early game. Maybe if you're against a really dangerous, like, magic user early, you could try to go for this one. But this is almost always going to be better if you need something. We talked about Ruin King earlier. The third path gives you 100 health and then minus 10% damage to champions until 10 minutes. This could be okay on like an enchanter in lane if you're against a tough lane. It's a 266 gold value right off the bat. And you get to keep that forever. And you only do like less damage until 10 minutes, and then you do full damage again. So it's pretty good for a minor rune. So I think it's okay. And then intelligence, 5%. CDR, cooldown reduction, summoner spell reduction, item reduction, and rune reduction. So it's pretty good. I mean, it's respectable. If it's a minor rune, it's alright. I don't know if I'd... Definitely not Keystone worthy. I don't think it's Keystone. If it's a major, I'd have to think about it. I mean, it's a minor. It's pretty good. Okay. So that's going to be it. So, if I were building, I think that either Janna, Sona, Lulu right now are still going to be strong until they nerf them a lot. And I would go for Perxie. Now, or Perxie. Sorry, getting tired here. I need to cash out. Now, once again, I'm not sure, like, if these are all viable, like which trees they're in, or if they're going to move around and all that. But just like in the abstract, I think Perxie would be really good. Zombie Ward, Overcharger. I think Zombie Ward's a major. Perxie's the keystone. Zombie Ward, Overcharger is a minor. The healing one that I just talked about, I think, is another minor one. I'm not sure if Magical Footwear is minor or not. I would probably pick that up if it was a minor. Those are all majors. I wish I could take these, but I can't. That's a keystone. Yeah, so there's not enough to choose an entire suite, but that's what I would be thinking. I'd be thinking Zombie Ward, Perxie, the plus healing and shielding, and a couple others. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. There's going to be a lot more runes that are released. I mean, they're just touching the surface of this. I just constantly have people ask me, what do I think about this? What do I think about that? Preseason changes, rune changes, all that stuff. So I just wanted to make a quick video about that. It's not so quick. But here you go. That's my thoughts. I will put in the timestamps so that you can navigate it easily. And I'll see you next time. Have a good day. Thank you very much.